In today's video, I'm going to show you guys what is possible when combining Gemini's new Nano Banana Pro, their video creation model VO 3.1, a back-end system like this in n8n, and a front-end system like this in Airtable. I created a system that I call the AI UGC production pipeline for TikTok Shop, and it allowed me to create videos like this.
I'm literally amazed. These headphones last 40 hours on a single charge, and just 5 minutes gives you 2 extra hours of music. These weigh just 5.6 ounces, so they're super comfy for all day wear. So if you want headphones that last 40 hours on a single charge and are super comfy, link in my bio to grab yours. Trust me, you'll love them.
Yes, that video was 100% AI generated using this system that I showed you, this back-end n8n system, and then using that front-end Airtable that we're all going to go through together as well. If you're watching this video right now, the first thing that I advise you to do is actually import this template for yourself, because I do give this away for free in my free school community. So if you just click the link in my description, it'll bring you to my free school community, the AI Growth Lab, where you can head over to the classroom, head over to the n8n templates, and then you can download this file, the JSON file, for yourself. The way you're going to import it is you're just going to click these 3 dots over here, click import from file, and then just select that file that you just downloaded, and everything that you see right here in front of you is going to be in your own n8n. Obviously, if you don't even have n8n, I got you covered. I also have a link in my bio to n8n. You can click that, sign up, and then do the whole import process to get this template for yourself. The next thing you're going to see is this sticky note's actually going to have this video embedded into it, so that way you can play the video of the tutorial or the node by node breakdown while you're actually setting up the system. Because if you read through this sticky note over here on the left, you can tell the system does require a little bit of setup, which I'm going to walk you through in this video as well, setting up some APIs, setting up some webhooks and stuff like that in the front end Airtable, and just going over the entire process. We're actually going to create a video from start to finish as well in this video, also reviewing everything that's happening in every node. Next thing you're going to come across is this sticky note paired with this workflow. Don't touch anything with that yet. We will get to that later in the video. It is to do with this system. It just has its own little separate purpose. I'll explain in a little bit. Feel free to read through this if you want to, though. So what do we actually have here? Well, we have the create AI influencer workflow. You can see here we have the generate or conduct product analysis. We have generate starting frame 1. We have create video 1, generate video 2, generate video 3, and combine clips, all with the same trigger using a webhook. Well, this is our backend. If you head over to this sticky note and you click where it says Airtable base, it will actually bring you to a place that you can copy the front end Airtable that is required to run this system for yourself. So that way, not only are you going to have the backend template, you're also going to have the front end Airtable that we use to basically run the entire show. So go ahead and copy that for yourself. So if we head into that front end Airtable called the AI Content Hub, hopefully by now you've copied it for yourself. We have 3 different tables. We have the TikTok Shop products website, we have the video creation center, and then we have our AI influencer table. If we head over to the first table, which is the TikTok Shop products website, and we just head over to this website, you can see here that this is where we actually get our products. This basically lists the sales ranks, the GMV ranks, the most promoted products, pretty much everything there is to know TikTok Shop wise. And if you actually create a count for this Fastmoss, you can see a lot more details too, because if we click see more here, you can see that we're kind of limited on what we're able to see if we don't have an account. So that's where we're actually going to get the products that we want to market. The next table we have here is our actual video creation center. What you're going to see here is we have a bunch of different fields like the status, the character. This is going to be a list of AI influencers that we can actually choose ourselves. That way we can decide which AI influencer we want to market the product. We have the product image, the product name. We have a bunch of buttons here that connect to each one of those backend workflows. This one is like generate product analysis, generate starting frames, create video 1, 2, and 3. And then we also have a button that combines clips. In our next table, we have the AI influencer table. What this is going to allow us to do is actually bring our character ideas to life. For example, let's say we have an AI influencer that is a girl, but our next product that we want to market on TikTok Shop is something for like fitness, like weightlifting or whatever. Maybe we want a gym bro as our AI influencer. So we would come to this table, we would give a character idea here, we would click this button, it will trigger the create character workflow in our backend, and it will bring the image here, and it will also give them a name and add that name to our character selection list. So it'll add their name to, if we head over here, to the character selection. All right, that is just a brief overview of what's actually going on in our front end. Well, let's actually start to set these buttons up and explain what these buttons are even doing. So if we double click into a button here, let's just go into the first one, which is generating the product analysis. You can see here, it's just sending a formula. Now we have your webhook URL here. This is where your webhook's going to go. And we also send over a record ID for this entire row. That way we know which row we're working with. Well, how do we actually get this formula to send data to our webhook in our backend? Well, if we see here, this button is attached to generate product analysis. So if we go into our backend here and we head over to the conduct product analysis workflow and we double click into this webhook, we're going to see we have two different URLs here. We have a test URL and we have a production URL. Now the difference between the two, and you can choose whatever one you want to use, I'm going to be using the test URL just so we can actually walk through for demo purposes so I can show you the actual data and what's happening in each node. The test URL actually requires you to listen for a test event before you trigger the workflow. So if we take this test URL here and we were to paste it where it says your webhook URL, and remember we're on the test setting, and I was to come into here and click the button, nothing is going to happen because we're on the test URL and I'm not listening for a test event. But if I click listen for a test event and then I click the button now, it will trigger this webhook. Now the production URL is quite the opposite. You actually don't need to listen for a test event. So you click the production URL, you paste it in where it says your webhook URL here, and all you have to do is make sure that the workflow is turned to active. And once you click this button, it will automatically trigger the workflow and you don't have to listen for test event or click this orange execute workflow. Again, you can choose whatever one you want for demo purposes so we can actually see the data moving through here, and I can click into each node and actually show you the data. I'm going to put it on test for now. So let's actually start setting these buttons up. So all you need to do is for each one of the buttons and each one of the workflows that have the correct names and webhooks, you need to make sure you paste in the URL. So here, we're going to go ahead and click in this URL here. We're going to go into here, double click this button for the generate product analysis because we just got the URL for the generate product analysis workflow. And all you're going to do is paste it in right here and then click save. Now that same exact process is going to happen for every single one of these workflows. So the create AI influencer, double click into the webhook, click onto the webhook URL, head over to the AI influencer table, the create character, and paste in your webhook there. Now the same thing happens. So all the generate videos, all you need to do is double click into all the webhooks and then paste it into the correct button that points to the correct workflow. The last thing I'm going to walk you through here is these Airtable automations that we actually have built inside of Airtable itself. The first one is the triggers when a record is created in our video creation center table, and we just want to update the record to ready, the status to ready. That way, our backend system kind of relies on the status being ready for it to continue moving on with that data. The second automation here is actually a little tricky. This is the automation that actually triggers and runs this other workflow that I have attached off to the left with the other sticky note. And let me explain what it does. So before I added that separate workflow in, what was happening is whenever we created an AI influencer, we would have to manually come into this single select and add the name of our AI influencer. That took a little bit of time, and we're in AI automation, so we try to problem solve and find ways to where whenever we create our own AI influencer, they automatically get added to the list of options. So what happens here, and the way that you need to set this up, is if you click into the run a script. So what's happening is when a record is updated, so whenever we get a name added to our AI influencer, which is all handled automatically, as soon as this field is filled, that is then going to trigger this script here, which basically triggers the webhook. So all you're going to need to do is the same thing essentially that you did for setting up all the buttons, is you need to come over to this workflow here, double click in, 100% needs to be on the production URL. So not the test, this needs to be on the production URL for it to work properly. You're going to double click or you're going to copy this webhook URL here and you're going to paste it in right where it says your webhook URL. So right before the question mark and right before this quotation, you paste in that production URL. Now what this does is whenever we get a name, it triggers this webhook, which this workflow essentially, we'll go through it later, is allowing us to add the character name to the set of options. And the reason why I have this one off to the left is because if you are not on active and you are on inactive, this workflow will not work. For the production URL to work, you need to be on active. So if you want to leave this on inactive and you're using test URLs, you need to copy this sticky note and copy this workflow open up a different canvas, paste it in, and turn it to active for it to work. But if you're using production URLs, you can just turn it to active. I'm using test URLs and I also have it on active, so completely up to you. And there is a bunch of other nodes and things you need to set up in here as well. But when we reach those nodes, we'll walk through exactly how you set them up for yourself. But for now, that is the basic overview of the system. That's the front end setup. And without further ado, let's actually create our own AI UGC TikTok ad from scratch. So if we read through this sticky note here, all these APIs are required to make this system run. So we're using for Nano Banana Pro in VO 3.1, we are using a software or a website called key.ai. So if you click this link, it will bring you to the key.ai website sign up page where you do need to make an account, add some credits, things like that. For the combining of the clips, we're using Fal AI, where you also can click in, create your own account, add some credits. And then these other links here will also bring you to the n8n documentation, basically explaining to you how to actually create an API. All right, without further ado, let's jump into actually creating our own video. First thing we're going to do is head over to our product's website and we're going to select a product that we want to market. I have chosen to do this hydro jug here. So all we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is actually take a screenshot of the jug itself. And all we're going to do with that screenshot is we're going to drag it into the product image. The next thing we're going to do is actually grab the product name itself. So I'm going to come into here, copy the product name, go back into the product name and paste it in there. So we have our product image and our product name, but we don't have an AI influencer to be able to market that product. So I'm going to click the plus sign over here and I'm just going to give a character idea. I just said a young 20s TikTok influencer, hyper realistic. Obviously, the more detailed you get, the better the character generation is going to be. Now that we have our character idea set up, we need to create our character. Since we're on the test URL, I'm going to click execute workflow here, and then I'm going to click this button to actually trigger the workflow. You can see here, message workflow was started. And if we go into our backend, you can actually see everything happening. Let's go ahead and wait for our character to be created, and then we'll walk through each node. All right, the workflow has finished. Let's go see what character our system was able to come up with. Perfect. That will work for exactly what we were going for. I think it fits the product pretty good. All right, let's actually break down what happened in node by node, and this is actually going to show you some of the nodes that you need to set up for yourself to get this to work. So when we clicked that button, obviously we were pointing it to send the data to this webhook. Now the only thing that we sent through, if you remember, was the record ID and a calculation, basically the unique record ID for the row itself that we're trying to work with. The next node here is an Airtable get a record, and obviously if you don't already have an Airtable account and an Airtable API token, personal access token set up, this isn't going to work for you at all. There's going to be a bunch of error messages everywhere. So I highly recommend doing everything that is said here on the sticky note before you even move on to trying to use the system for yourself, because it won't work. So assuming you already have an Airtable account set up and credential, you can see here all we're doing is getting a record, and the record that we're getting is the one that is attached to this record ID here, because that's the row that we want to work with. Once we get that record ID, we are creating an image prompt. So you can see we have an LLM node here. You also have to create an OpenAI account and API. If we open up the system prompt here, we're essentially telling this LLM that its job is to create image prompt for AI influencer reference photos. And we tell it that you're going to receive a character description, turn it into a clean portrait photo prompt. The job that we gave it was the input is the character description, and it's to output a 1-paragraph image prompt for a professional reference photo. And then we basically give it some requirements, like this is what a reference photo is. We give it the structure that we want it to output in, how to build the prompt, and some examples. And if we open up the user prompt, this is what we're actually feeding the LLM. It's just the character idea. And we also tell it that it needs to give the character a name and output in a field called character name. So all we fed in was a young 20s TikTok influencer, hyper realistic, which is exactly what we had in our character idea. And then you can see down here on the right, might be a little blurry, because it is very small text, but it outputted a prompt that says professional portrait photo, medium shot, bright natural lighting, early 20s woman with average build, long hair. Basically just a perfect image prompt for what we were looking for. All right, this is the first node that you need to configure yourself. This is what is called a custom API call using the HTTP request node inside of n8n. So key.ai does not have a native integration, so we had to make a custom API call. So if we double click open to this node here, hopefully by now you have already created a key.ai account and you've gotten your API token. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do something that's really cool in n8n. You can actually store your custom API credentials. That way, for every HTTP request you want to make to any service like key.ai, you will automatically have your credentials saved. So this will all be configured for you. You will have the URL, you will have the method, and you will have the JSON body request. This is how we're actually sending over a request with our image prompt to key.ai that allows us to use Nano Banana Pro to generate our image. So what you have to do here for authentication is you need to click generic credential type. You need to click header auth on generic auth type. And then header auth, you're not going to have anything here because you haven't created a key.ai credential yet. So yours is going to be create new credential. What you're going to have to do here is type in authorization with a capital A and then paste in your API key, click save, and then name it key. So what this will look for you is you will now be able to select key and it will have your credential, your API, and everything. Now you can officially make the call to key.ai. So if we open up our body request here, we're telling key AI what model we want to use. We have a JSON expression here that basically just says the callback URL is execution resume URL, which basically allows us to create or fill that URL on execution. We then are sending over the image prompt that our LLM generated using this JSON expression here, just replacing any new lines, any quotation marks, any slashes. That way it doesn't break the clean JSON, because before this expression, which it'll already be set up for you, you want to mess with it. Sometimes the LLM would output some new lines or some quotation marks, basically breaking the JSON and making it not valid JSON. So whenever we would try to send the body request, it would say invalid JSON. And then the aspect ratio is 9:16, perfect for TikTok. The resolution is 2K, and the output format is in a PNG file. Then we just pass it through a wait 10 seconds node. And if we open up this next HTTP request node, it's the get image. So if you look over at this node here, we used a post method, meaning we posted essentially our request to key, and now we need to get our data back or get our image back. So if we open up this node here, since you've already created your key, all you need to do is generic credential type, header auth, and select your key account that you already created, or your key credential. Now what we're doing here is we're actually getting the we're checking on the status of our image generation. So what we do here is we basically send it to this URL here that's called record info using the task ID, and then we get an output basically telling us, has it worked? So we got a code 200, message success, and basically the parameters, the state is success, the model that we use, and also the important thing is this result JSON here. This is our result URL. Now these 4 nodes right here are using a technique called polling, because sometimes whenever we execute the get method, maybe our image isn't done generating yet. So we pass it through this switch node here, which essentially allows us to go down 2 different paths. Does the result URL exist or does it not exist? So sometimes this will say code 200 success, but the result URL hasn't been populated yet. Well, if we try to move on and we try to download an image with a URL that doesn't exist, obviously our workflow is going to break. So until this result URL populates, what we do is we go down this second route. We pass it through a wait node that waits 5 seconds, and then we recheck that node again, or we recheck with key AI to see if our result URL has populated. Now we continue looping through this until we get our result URL. Then what happens is we do a simple get request with this expression here that just allows us to clean up the result URL. So we just drag over result URL. We have this parse JSON expression that basically cleans it up. So if you can see here, there's a bracket, there's some quotations, there's result URLs, a semicolon. We basically just make sure it's a perfectly clean URL for us to be able to download, which, as you can see here, we downloaded the file. Now, the next thing that we want to accomplish with this file is we want to actually upload the image to our Airtable base. But Airtable can only accept a certain format, so it cannot just upload this file as is. We needed to convert it to base 64. So n8n has a data transformation node called extract from file, move file to base 64 string. All we're doing is passing in the binary field, which is data, and outputting in a field called data, just converting it to base 64. Now, Airtable does not have a native integration to allow you to actually upload images to Airtable. So we had to do a custom API call to Airtable to be able to upload the image. So if we double click into this HTTP request node, there's a few things that you need to do to be able to set this up. Okay, The first thing being this app and then all these numbers and letters right here is custom to you. So let me show you exactly what I mean by this. When you import the template, it's going to say your base ID here. I'm going to put that there just so you know where to paste it. Now what this is when you actually go into your Airtable, you're going to see in the URL, it's going to say app and then all these letters and numbers right here and then a backslash. So everything from the backslash all the way to the A, you need to copy that and you need to paste it into this node right here where it's going to say your Airtable base ID here. Now, if you want to save some time while you already have that base ID copied, any of the nodes that says add image to Airtable or add video to Airtable, you're going to need to do the same thing. So you might as well take care of it now. So click into it, wherever it says your Airtable base ID here, paste it. That's going to be the same for this node right here, add video to Airtable 2, add video to Airtable 3, and upload complete video to Airtable. That same process needs to be done for all of those nodes. Now, the next thing, hopefully you've already created your Airtable credential. So all you need to do to set this node up is authentication is predefined credential type, Airtable personal access token API, and Airtable personal access token API is going to be whatever you name your credential. Now, if we head over to the Builder Hub in Airtable, you're going to see here when you create your API or your personal access token, you need to make sure you add the base to the token and you also have all of these scopes selected. That way it allows you to actually do things like read, write, data, schema bases, read, write, manage. And then in the body request, all we're doing is just uploading the file. So we have the content type, which is image. Remember, it's a PNG file, the actual file itself, and then the file name, which is just generated image.png. You don't have to mess with any of that. We actually uploaded that to our Airtable. The last thing we did is if you see our LLM actually created the name for our influencer. So we just added the name to the influencers. You can see here, the AI came up with Ava Collins and we just added the name to her part in the table. Now, if we head over to executions and you remember that workflow that's off to the side that I said needs to be on production, the one that actually adds her name to the selection, what's actually happening here? Well, when we added the name, you remember our Airtable workflow triggered this. So what's happening is we're getting the character details. So remember, we're sending over the record ID. So we want to get that exact record, the entire row of the character that we're actually using. Next thing is we're going to run it through a code node here that just extracts the character's name. So you can see here we extract Ava Collins, the base ID, the table ID, and then the field name as well, which is character. Now we have a custom HTTP request here. We are actually getting the schema of the table itself. All you have to do to set this up is just the same thing, the predefined credential type, Airtable personal access token, and your whatever you named your personal access token. So once we get the schema of our actual Airtable base and table, we're going to pass all that information through a code node to check if the character exists. So we're going to get the status, the field ID, so the actual ID for the field itself that we're trying to update, the base ID, the table ID, and then the actual name that we want to add to our single select or our options of characters. So now these next two are a little bit tricky. We are making custom API calls to Airtable as well, but this one is actually creating a dummy record. Now we are using typecast here, and what we're doing is we are calling this URL here, which is the video creation center. And in the body request, we actually feed in the field, which is character and the new character name, allowing us to add her or add whatever influencer as an option. And then all this one does is just delete the dummy record that we created, only leaving her name as the option. So you can see Ava Collins here. If we head over to Video Creation Center and we pick our character now that we want to use to market this product with, she is now an option. All right, so we have our AI influencer. We have her selected. We have our product image and our product name. Next step is actually generating the product analysis to give Miss Ava Collins here the correct data when it comes to what she should say when recording the video. As always, we're going to click execute workflow here if we are on the test URL. I'm going to come into our Airtable and I'm going to click generate product analysis. And we can see our button has worked. All right, the product analysis has finished. Let's go ahead and make sure it is populated in our Airtable. There it is, the entire detailed product analysis, everything about the product. Let's go dive into the workflow, break it down by node, and see exactly what happened. First things first, you already know when we click the button, it's going to trigger the webhook and send over the record ID of the row that we're trying to interact with. Next thing is we're just going to grab the product itself. So we are going to search records by formula, and this one is the status is ready. and slash or the product analysis is empty or blank. What this allows us to do is pull any and all of the rows where the product analysis has not been done yet, because we might be doing multiple products at once. That allows us to return that entire row, and we feed it through Perplexity AI. Now, the sticky note over on the left side of the screen has the link to Perplexity and how to set up a credential. We are using Message A model. The model we're using is Sonar, and if we open up the system prompt here, it's a very, very detailed prompt on how we want Perplexity to conduct its research. So the overview that we give it is you are a specialized product research assistant for TikTok shop influencers, and your role is to conduct comprehensive research on products and generate detailed briefing reports that influencers need before creating promotional content. So we give it its research process. We give it the product research brief, the safe to claim, the do not claims, some examples, research standards, sources to check, red flags to watch for. We have critical TikTok talking points. We have the tone that we want it to respond in. And we also have verified claims and prohibited claims. That way, our AI influencer is only saying things that we are allowed to say. And then in the user prompt, all we are feeding through is the exact product name. That way, it can search that name itself. And then if you see the output down here on the right, it was that big, long blob of text that was just a bunch of research on the product. Last thing we did is we just updated the record. So we matched on product name, and we just passed in the analysis itself, which allowed us to add the product analysis to the correct row. Now we have the product image, our character, the product name, and the product analysis. Let's generate starting frame 1. Now, if you see here, I don't need to necessarily break this down node by node as detailed as I did with this first create AI influencer workflow, because these two are essentially doing the exact same thing. There's a few different changes that I'll go through, but I don't need to break it down node by node. So let's click execute workflow here, and let's click generate starting frame 1, and you can see the button worked. All right, the workflow is finished up. Let's go check our starting frame 1. That's pretty good if you ask me. She's outside, it's our exact influencer, and she's holding the product, and that product looks exactly how the real product looks. Perfect. Now this workflow is just about the same. Let's just go through the key differences and exactly what's happening here. So you can see in the beginning, we have 2 Airtable nodes instead of 1. That's because we're combining 2 different images. So one, we are grabbing the character we want to use. So if we look into our button formula here, we're not only passing in the record ID, we're passing in the product name so we can get the product image and the character that we want to use. That way we can grab the character from the AI influencer table so we can combine the images. So if we open up our webhook here, you can see product name, record ID, and the character. So this next Airtable node, which is the search record, the filter that we're using is the name is equal to, and then whatever name we chose for that row. That way we can grab it from our AI influencer table, making sure the names match, and it returns the image of our AI influencer. The next Airtable node we're doing though is, remember, we have to grab the row itself. So we're grabbing any of the rows that are labeled as ready. The next thing, we have our image prompter. So if we click into it, we have a system prompt. This prompt's a little bit different though, because it's not creating a prompt just for a static AI influencer. It's actually generating the opening scene. So it needs to know what never to do, what to always do, is basically describing the character's position, pose, what they're wearing, the lighting, the background. Basically, the main task we gave it was that it is a specialized scene composition assistant for creating opening scene image prompts for TikTok UGC videos. You can see we give it the exact framework that we wanted to follow, examples, product-specific considerations, quality checklist to follow, and final reminders. Now, for the model, we're using GPT-4o, but honestly, you can use whatever model. There's so many more smarter models to date. This one I just put on there just for standard use cases. And we have a set node here. This one's a little bit different as well. The LLM sometimes will mess up the output name. Sometimes it'll say text. Sometimes it'll just say something else. So the set node just allows us to keep the output name of the information or of the image prompt the same, which is just image prompt. So we feed in whatever this is, and we make sure it is always image prompt. So you can see here it outputs the text as image prompt. Now you already have set this up. You don't have to touch a thing. All you're going to have to do is the same thing you did for all the other nodes if you haven't already, which is just set up your key AI credential. Same body request as the other. The only other thing we're doing here is we're feeding in 2 different images. We are feeding in the product image that we took a screenshot of and the character image, so our actual AI influencer image, and that way we're feeding them both into n8n to create our AI influencer holding the product. Now, all these nodes are the exact same. We're doing the polling technique, basically waiting for the result URL, converting it to base64 and adding it to Airtable. Now, if you see here, there's a pretty common trend here. All these workflows are very, very similar. The only difference is a little bit of prompting differences in our video prompters now. Now they're tasked with creating a video prompt, and everything else is literally the exact same. So I don't necessarily have to go node by node. I can just show you the little subtle differences that way you can kind of understand. But everything is fundamentally the same from the very first image generation workflow that we built. So to create video 1, we're just going to click execute workflow, click the create video 1 button. And once again, you can see that it worked. All right, our video has completed. Let's go check it out.
Okay, so this hydro jug holds 32 ounces. That's like 4 standard water bottles, and it fits perfectly in my car cup holder.
Pretty good. It stuck to the correct facts. It is a 32-ounce hydro jug. Now, this part of the system is absolutely crucial to maintain character consistency and make the video flow. So if you see over here, we have starting frame 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our video 1, and we're going to find part of like the last frame here where we can clearly see our influencer's face and the product. And we're going to take a screenshot here, just like this, like we did for our product. We're going to take the screenshot, and then we're going to drag and drop that screenshot into starting frame 2. That way, when we create video 2, the video model is going to have starting frame 2 as its reference image. Now, what all was different in this system? Well, pretty much nothing. The only thing that was different here is if we open up the prompter, we can see that it's prompt to be a video prompter for TikTok Shop videos and not an image creator. We give it some dialogue rules, some specific benefits to say, bad things to say, good things to say, examples, critical rules, and then a final checklist to follow. And then in the user prompt, we are just feeding in the name of the product and the product research. That way it can base its dialogue, what the character actually says, off of the actual research that we performed on the product. Now here we are using Open Router's chat model, so that's why I have the link over there. You can use OpenAI, you can use any LLM. I just chose to use Open Router because we're feeding in a lot of context, it's outputting a lot of context, and Gemini 2.5 has seemed to be pretty good when creating these video prompts. All of this is the exact same here. This node is the same, it's using the key AI. The body request is all we're doing that we changed was we are using the model VO3 fast now. We feed in the prompt, we feed in the image URL, which in this case was starting frame 1, which was the one that we had the AI generated. And the same thing for the callback URL, and the aspect ratio is 9:16. Very simple, you don't have to mess with any of this. All right, let's go ahead and generate video 2. Let's go ahead and click this button here, and we can clearly see our workflow has started. All right, so we just got video 2. Let's go check it out.
Honestly, this is a BPA-free plastic tumbler, super easy to clean since it's dishwasher safe, and leak-proof when the straw's down.
All right, pretty good. Exactly what we were going for. And as you know, now we need to take a screenshot of the last clear frame and add it to starting frame 3. This is the screenshot that I took, and this is what's going to start video 3. So without further ado, let's go ahead and click generate video 3 and get our video 3 generated. All right, video 3 has been created, and a reminder, the reason why I'm not breaking down each node is because all three of these workflows essentially are the exact same. The only thing that's different is we're feeding in different images to the video model.
So if you want a leak-proof tumbler that holds 32 ounces and keeps drinks cold for hours, link in my bio to grab one, and trust me, you'll love it.
All right, pretty good. Now the next step is actually combining all 3 of those 8-second clips together. So when we click this button here, the combine clips, it's actually going to bring us down to this combine clips workflow. Now what we're using here and a couple of nodes that you're going to have to set up, this will be another node by node breakdown here, is we're using FAL AI. The link that I showed you on the sticky note, you will have to create an account and add some credits for this to work. What this does is it uses a tool called FFmpeg Compose, and it stitches all 3 of the videos together to create one 24-second clip. So as always, let's first just execute the workflow, and then we will break it down showing you the data actually transforming from node to node. All right, so it looks like our clips have all been combined. Let's go watch the final video.
Okay, so this hydro jug holds 32 ounces. That's like 4 standard water bottles, and it fits perfectly in my car cup holder. Honestly, this is a BPA-free plastic tumbler, super easy to clean since it's dishwasher safe, and leak-proof when the straw's down. So if you want a leak-proof tumbler that holds 32 ounces and keeps drinks cold for hours, link in my bio to grab one. Trust me, you'll love it.
All right, so now all we have to do is just do our node by node breakdown, and then after I break down how we actually combine those clips, the final product is just taking that video, throwing it into CapCut, cutting some of the parts out that don't look great, throwing on some subtitles, maybe some edits, and then you can post that to TikTok. How did we actually do this? So obviously you guys already know how the webhooking works, and you know how we grab the data in the character that we want to use. But let's see how we actually configured the FAL AI HTTP request node. Very, very similar to how we actually did our API calls to key.ai. So let's go ahead and open it up. So same exact thing, same way that you set up the key.ai, it's just called FAL AI. So you just need to go to that FAL AI link that I have on the sticky note, create your credential, everything like that, and just do the same thing you did for Key AI, just name it FAL AI. Now, if you can see here, we're using a tool called FFmpeg API Compose. That's what allows us to actually stitch each 8-second clip together. And then for the body request here, you can see we are doing combined video, type video, and then these 3 different video URLs to all 3 different clips, and we're combining them at the timestamp. So timestamp 0, timestamp 8 seconds, timestamp 16 seconds. And it gives the duration as well, which is 8 seconds each, which allows us to combine that entire clip into one. Now, this was the post method, so whenever you do a post, you need to do a get to be able to get the data back, or get the video back in this case. So we go through our same sort of polling technique here, but in this case, we're just waiting 1 minute. This really does not take that long, but it's just a safety measure. And then we just do a get request using the request ID. So you can see whenever we post our request and it gets created, we get what's called a request ID here, and we run it to this URL here that basically gets this request ID. What we're doing is we're getting the status, making sure that the status is complete. When the status is complete, we then get what's called the response URL, which then allows us to get the video URL of our video. Now we are downloading that video using a get request, so then we are just doing a standard get method on just the video URL itself, doing the extracting to base 64, so that way we can upload that video to Airtable and then change our status to complete.
Okay, so this hydro jug holds 32 ounces. That's like 4 standard water bottles, and it fits perfectly in my car cup holder. Honestly, this is a BPA-free plastic tumbler, super easy to clean since it's dishwasher safe, and leak-proof when the straw's down. So if you want a leak-proof tumbler that holds 32 ounces and keeps drinks cold for hours, link in my bio to grab one. Trust me, you'll love it.
Obviously, there's a lot more that you can do to the system. You can edit the prompting. You can add to now where it captions the video and auto posts it to all the platforms. But this is the fundamentals of a good AI UGC system using the power of Nano Banana and FIO 3.1. So I just want to say thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you were able to grab the template reminder. It's in my free school with the template and access to the Airtable base as well. Everything you see on the screen in front of you. And stay tuned, hit the subscribe, hit the like button so I can continue to make videos like this and teach you guys how to use the power of AI automation. See you in the next one.